There's a lot of talk out there about content clusters and fancy diagrams like this with pillars, supports, interlinking, all kinds of mapping, all kinds of planning and stuff like that. But quite frankly, I think it is just a lot of buzz and overhype. I kind of liken it to funnels and funnel maps in the paid advertising world. I'm very big in paid advertising. I spend a ton of money on it. I have a lot of experience on it. You can kind of browse my YouTube channel and find a lot on paid advertising that really indicates I know what I'm talking about when it comes to that. And one of the things I see is, all the gurus kind of map out their funnel. And the more complicated and intricate the funnel map becomes, the more people just become so intrigued and enthused by it. The more steps it has, the cooler it looks, the more little lines and diagrams and wireframes and the bigger the whiteboard gets, just the more people just seem to flock to it. But as a high-level paid advertiser, I will tell you that these complicated funnel maps mean absolutely jack shit. At the very core, a simple funnel needs to work. And if your simple funnel, and I'm talking ad to landing page to conversion event, 3 steps, if that does not work, all of the extra steps and bullshit that you put into it is absolutely meaningless. And I see a lot of people go out there and they'll try to, find this perfect funnel map like this and duplicate it and set it up and be like, all right, I'm going to print money. And then they pump some traffic into it and nothing works. Well, again, that is because the very simple principles of it did not work first. And the same thing basically applies to content clusters. And I guess, it's even weaker, in terms of information or value when it comes to content clusters, because nobody really knows what exactly Google is looking for. At least when you make a funnel, you can measure every detail through it, right? Like you're in control of this funnel. You are not in control of the content cluster. It is all literally just theoretical bullshit. All right, but again, so many people kind of get drawn into them, and I think a lot of people in the info space and people publishing out there on how to drive traffic and stuff are kind of publishing on this content cluster type of thing because it lends itself to creating these very nifty diagrams. That said, there is something to be taken away from content clusters, and I'll share kind of how I think of it and how I look at it. Number one is I believe that when you kind of publish content on a particular topic or cluster, so to say, that it indicates topical relevance to Google. So for example, let's just say that we look at rabbit training, right? Like that's a content cluster. Okay, I think that the more comprehensive you cover, the more depth you cover on this topic, the better you will do. So for example, if we're looking at all of these little questions here, and this is in the keyword magic tool in SEMrush, right? You got a lot of little things down here. How to litter train a rabbit, right? And there's very little search volume. So if you publish on that, you're not going to expect to get a ton of search volume, but I think that having that into your cluster or your category, if we use non-buzzwords, it's a category. I think that having a lot of these little search queries covered in their own blog posts in that category is highly important, because if you're publishing on rabbit training, well, this is a comprehensive piece that you should have. Whether or not a lot of people are searching for it, it is probably important or relevant to the rabbit training category or cluster. All right, I'm using these terms interchangeably because I'm saying that, content cluster is kind of the buzzword, but really what it is a category, right? So I think that that's incredibly important, and I do know somebody out there that is, I don't know his name off the top of my head, that is doing this, and he's publishing, on all of these little, basically low volume or no volume even, search queries. And he's doing quite well with that by publishing a ton of content on that. So, if you're planning your content, maybe plan on going deep, right? Like if you're doing a site on rabbits, maybe you're going to have, rabbit training, rabbit diet, rabbit health. I don't even know what else you'd put on rabbits. I've never really given much thought to the rabbit information and content space. But right, so then you're going to want to knock out rabbit training first, or whatever one you go first. Maybe knock that out and go at a deeper level than what you would ordinarily do. That is something I am personally trying to do, and that makes sense to me. It's a simple principle that makes sense, right? Google is going to want to see that you are a true topical authority before they're ranking you for higher volume keywords, or I believe that if they can see that your higher volume keywords and search queries and content that you publish on it would rank higher if you're truly covering in depth that category. That's number one. The second part of it is interlinking, right? And there's all kinds of theories on interlinking, but again, nobody knows really what the fuck works in interlinking. Literally nobody knows except for, the top level engineers at Google, right? And for every example you find doing it, for everybody that you find that's running this little content cluster that may or may not be working, you can find another example of somebody that's not doing it that's still ranking well. So for that, I think that just basic principles of interlinking and linking where applicable in your content apply. If you have regular writers, and we do this with some of our regular writers, they know the site that they're writing for. New writers do not know the name of the site that they're writing for when they're writing for me, but in time we eventually kind of will tell them, after they've kind of passed the basic test and they've written 5 or 6 pieces, we'll start telling them, hey, this is our site. You can search it by doing a little site : and then our site and putting the query in front of that. And we appreciate if you interlink where applicable. For the pieces that don't have interlinking, what we do in formatting is we will we'll do just kind of a little site internal piece, or site internal search. I'll show you how to do that in a second. And we'll be sure to put in 2 outbound links to relevant content on our site, and then 2 inbound links from relevant content. So if we're going back to the rabbit training example, right, like let's just say, what was one? I remember the one I read out loud had litter in it. We'll just use that, right? So here's just a random site that I found. I was going to say I have. I don't have the site. I'm not affiliated with this. I just happened to find this one. I think it actually may be for sale or something, which is how it came across my horizon. But let's just say that we're publishing on litter tray training. I would type in maybe litter tray, and then site : our site, and here we go. All right, well, now they haven't mentioned litter trays really on the site in any form really, except for this one page. But here we go. You have to clean the litter tray regularly, right? Maybe we would hyperlink litter tray back to the new post that we're publishing on litter tray training. We might even put in here, just kind of go and I mean do this in the actual text, but we might just put in parentheses related how to litter tray train your rabbit, right? And then just hyperlink that and literally just put the related in there and hyperlink that back to the piece. So as a rule of thumb, we are inserting 2 links to other content on our site using this method, and then we're adding 2 links back to the new piece of content within our site. And that is what we're doing for interlinking. And well, as I explained, my thoughts on content clusters, not really doing anything formal like this diagram, just simply this interlinking, and also trying to go more deep on the actual cluster or the topic or category, whatever ambiguous word you want to use in there. Trying to go more deep on it so that we show actual topical authority or topical relevance or topical depth to Google. So that's my 2 cents on content clusters and internal linking. Let me know what you guys think, or if you have any questions in the comments below.